Tynwald members seem to have a habit of not disappointing us, and despite a fairly unpromising-looking October Tynwald order paper, not that much by way of exciting items there. A few statements was about the only... a few statements and a motion in relation to incentives and disincentives for inward migration to the Isle of Man. The rest of the order paper was fairly bland. A few motions down from the backbenchers, particularly from the Policy Alliance, Julie Edge, Chris Thomas and Claire Christian, but very little to capture the imagination, one might have thought. Even on the question paper, questions were fairly mild and specific in nature. Until, of course, we had a urgent question. Tim Glover put down an urgent question wanting to know about the overspend in the health department. And that, as might have been expected, resulted in significant numbers of members wishing to question the health minister. And the health minister was probably more fulsome in his answers than perhaps many might have expected. Little did they know what was about to happen. Other questions were answered. We got, I think it was possibly to question 14, maybe 15, and then maybe a little bit further actually. And then Tynwald was asked at about 2:45, because of course Tynwald, having trialled an hour for their dinner time break, 12:30 till 1:30, have now reverted to their old dinner time break, which is 1 till 2:30. And the reason for that is not that they like to digest their food at dinner time, but because they often cram in lots and lots of meetings over that period. So, come 2:45, a vote was put. Would we extend question time? The decision taken was no, we wouldn't. So everyone expected us to move on to item 4 on the order paper, which is the autumn statement from the Chief Minister. But lo and behold, the President gives permission to Laurie Hooper to give a personal statement. And by golly, what a personal statement it was. As he explained to me shortly after the personal statement, at the same time as giving the personal statement, he pressed send on an email to the Chief Minister in which he had tendered his resignation. The personal speech did not hold back, it is fair to say. It was full on, and the Chief Minister was left in no doubt as to what the Treasury Minister actually thought of him. He said things like, we need steadfast commitment and long-term views. The Chief Minister did not welcome Laurie Hooper's views on the NHS. The Chief Minister was looking to privatise the health service. Coman would not commit to free at the point of use health service. The Chief Minister was undermining Manx Care and the Department of Health and Social Care Minister. And, you were left in no doubt as to what the Chief Minister, or how the Chief Minister was viewed by the outgoing Health Minister, Laurie Hooper. And, of course, the unfortunate thing for the Chief Minister in terms of timing was, of course, he then had to go straight into giving his autumn statement, which would have been prepared in the absence of knowledge that the Health Minister was about to resign and throw the Chief Minister under a bus whilst doing so. The Chief Minister responded in a reasonably polite fashion, thanking the Health Minister for his service, and then moved on to his statement. But having slept on it, an opportunity arose for the Chief Minister to be much more forceful, which indeed he was, in relation to a debate that Chris Thomas had put down, which was in relation to the Council of Ministers looking into the overspend into Manx care and a range of various options on that. The Chief Minister was the second to speak, and it is fair to say that he laid in to the outgoing Health Minister in a pretty strong fashion. There was certainly no attempt at repairing the damaged relationship. It was very, very clear. And I think, to be fair, the Chief Minister was probably quite upset and hurt by the way in which the Health Minister had chosen to depart. And the Chief Minister very firmly and strongly denied any intention to privatise the NHS on the Isle of Man. He also released a quite damning report about the state of Manx Care's finances, in which a review had been undertaken into the systems and the operation of the systems that governed finance in Manx Care, and it said that words to the effect of it wasn't fit for purpose. So that report was a report that had a date of April 2024 written on it. The Chief Minister said that report had not been presented to Council of Ministers. To be fair, it was a fairly detailed report, possibly not high level enough for Council of Ministers to see, but it was a very damning report in which it said that Manx Care's finances were uncertain. And the information that Manx Care, the financial information Manx Care was getting, the control over that financial information was at best quite weak. So the Chief Minister reasonably suggested in response to the to the outgoing Health Minister that, well, if you're going to hide these sorts of reports, don't be too surprised if Council of Ministers doesn't fully get behind you on your first attempt to persuade them. The view, as far as the Chief Minister is concerned, is Council of Ministers may at some point accept some of the conclusions of the Health Minister, but at this stage they didn't feel they had enough information to fully understand what all the issues were. So all other talk and consideration in Tynwald this week was pretty much overshadowed by what went on between the Chief Minister and his former Health Minister. There were many other contributions, some contributions very, very firmly nailing their colours to the mast of saying, we believe at a health service which is free at the point of delivery. Others were pointing out that, well, actually, we already pay for a number of things in the health service. We pay for prescriptions, we pay for glasses, and actually that reminds me, I need another pair of glasses. We pay for ear tests and things like this. So it's not entirely free at the point of delivery as things stand. And what we also know is that we have an enormous gap between the funding available for the Manx Care and the funding that they say that they need. So I don't think Tynwald could be described, or either of the contributions, Chief Minister or indeed Health Minister, could be described as how to win friends and influence people. Maybe they would be influencing, but the winning friends perhaps not. And as a result of the Chief Minister's contribution then on the Wednesday morning, Mr. Hooper went to Twitter, as he does, and says, absolutely incredulous behaviour from someone who is supposed to be a leader. Not unexpected, though, and hopefully it shows what I've been up against. Are his ministers willing to stand behind someone who behaves like this? So that was Laurie Hooper's response. It is interesting to see that there was no vote of no confidence in the government. One might have thought that if one was coming, the time to do it would have been shortly after Minister Hooper's departure. But it certainly, I think came as quite a shock to everyone in Tynwald. There were very, very few members that Laurie Hooper had actually tipped off that he was about to resign too. So there we are. That is the crux of what went on in Tynwald. There were lots of other issues that were debated. Obviously, the debate that I mentioned of that Chris Thomas had put forward in terms of health service reform, that was pretty much amended by an amendment David Ashford had prepared, and from what I gather, this amendment had been prepared certainly with discussion with the Council of Ministers, and in effect what was decided was that Tynwald is of the opinion that DHSC should review the operation of the current legislation with a view to amending or replacing existing legislation in order to provide the opportunity for further reform and clarify the governance and division of responsibilities of the Department of Health and Social Care and Manx Care, with drafting principles, and be brought for debate at the January 2025 sitting of Tynwald. And further, that the Council of Ministers should ensure the current framework within Manx Care and DHSC to be reviewed to ensure that healthcare professions are fully engaged to secure continuous improvement of healthcare, undertake a review of how the executive members of Manx Care are appointed and employed, including how individual performance is assessed, managed and reviewed on an annual basis, and undertake a review of how the operation of Schedule 1 of the Manx Care Act 2021 has worked in practice, in particular the membership of the board, with a view to whether political representation on the board is required, and the results of such review should be submitted to Tynwald for debate no later than March 2025. So plenty to do. The outgoing Health Minister's view on that debate, for what it's worth now, is that the very last thing we need is another review, and actually we need to just bite the bullet and find additional income so that the health service, particularly Manx Care, can continue to be funded in the way that it feels it needs to be. So yes, that was the most lively elements to the Tynwald. We had, of course, the autumn statement from the Chief Minister, which I think the biggest laugh in Tynwald this week was when Jason Moorhouse got up and said, "I really don't understand what this statement is for." I suspect that the laughter was because many members wondered the same thing. Chief Minister had given a commitment to make this autumn statement, and this was a kind of a State of the Nation address, but it was deemed by many to be a rather bleak assessment, and that perhaps Chief Minister might have been more inclined to talk up things than paint such a bleak picture. The finance update from the Treasury Minister was as interesting for what it didn't say as it was for what it did, although there was a fair bit in it. The sorts of things that were in there, which will certainly trouble some people, were that my card, the way in which most, a lot of elderly people, I would guess, do get their benefits, whether that be pensions or other benefits. Fewer and fewer people are actually using my card. Most are plumping for getting their money paid directly into their bank accounts. Ditching my card, and this will happen at the end of the next financial year, will save £500,000. So you can kind of see why they might wish to do that. The Treasury Minister said inflation at budget time was running at 7.2%. It's now down to 2.2%, but the savings that might have been expected from that drop in inflation are certainly not being seen as yet. The Treasury Minister, of course, focused on Manx Care. He pointed to the near 17 million overspend. Manx Care, he suggested, should be able to find about 10 million of savings for that, but 7 million would remain unfunded, which basically means that there would need to be a supplementary vote for that extra funding. He reiterated that the UK triple lock was to be removed in relation to pensions, but they would find alternative ways to keep up with inflation. That felt a little bit like trying to have your cake and eating it. The replacement of tax of the 2% tax increase is it's harder to find than thought. So this was basically a healthcare levy of some kind was going to be imposed to replace the 2% tax. But the Treasury Minister felt that was going to be more difficult than had initially been thought. They're going to examine carefully how you can avoid the embarrassment of increasing stealth taxes. This is my note. Basically, the Treasury Minister is going to bring an order to Tynwald which automatically increases all the charges that government places for various services. It will automatically increase those by inflation. There were some cryptic comments about looking at child benefit. It wasn't entirely clear what was being said there. And perhaps the bit of good news, and it's always good to have some good news, isn't it? The OECD tax rule changes, which are going to affect all international businesses, will probably result in an extra £25 million worth of tax take from 2027. And knowing Treasury, that'll be a conservative estimate. Treasury doesn't tend to over-promise on these sorts of things, but we'll see. So that was the Treasury Minister's statement. But as I say, most of the comment I got from members was really about the departure of the Health Minister. And of course now the speculation is rife as to who may take over from Laurie Hooper. And there are a range of options being presented, but David Ashford has firmly ruled himself out from that role. It was reported that a hurried meeting had taken place with the Chief Minister and David Ashford yesterday, but David Ashford was very clear that he would not be going back into the Health Department. So at that point, just as we'd completed item 13 and began item, where was it? It was back then to item 6, which is the Council of Ministers report on inward migration incentives and disincentives. That's where I had to cut out of Tynwald because I had other responsibilities to attend to. So perhaps Christian Jones, who took over, will give you an update of what else happened in October Tynwald. I doubt, you never say never, but I doubt he'll have anything quite as headline-grabbing as the departure of the former Health Minister, Laurie Hooper.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio Newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.